Yeah, excited. Time to play. Um, Probably as excited as you guys are to see what we got. I mean, I think the kids have practiced hard. Um, it's been a long and a short 6, 7 months, whatever that is, however many months that's been. But I think it's going to be interesting just because, we haven't been through any real games with these guys to see who's going to respond, who's going to step up when somebody makes a big play on us or things don't go just right on offense, how we respond. And I'm curious, excited, and ready to go. It's been.
I mean, I guess you're always excited, but like the Friday night before the game, it's a big deal for you. It's a step in your coaching career, and how big a week is this for you? How big a game is it?
No bigger than any other year. I mean, they're all big. Like I told you guys way back when I first started coaching in front of 300 fans, I had the same exact feelings. That doesn't change. I mean, you're competitive. You want to do your best for your guys. It doesn't matter what stage you're on, where you're at. I mean, my focus never changes on that.
Coach, given this is the first run out of the tunnel and there's going to be nerves, excitement, and everything, well, what are you looking to see in maybe the first 5 minutes, or what would you like to see from your guys?
Yeah, it's going to, on both sides, I think that's part of the battle is getting guys to calm down, and that's easier said than done. And, I think as coaches, we can't put any more undue pressure on them. They're going to be feeling it themselves just by the first time out of the gate for a long time. And, it's always interesting how games start out, and we just, you got to weather the storms. I always think this for the high school kids that we're going to, the freshmen, and even some sophomores. The college game is a long game, a lot longer than the high school game. And there's going to be ebbs and flows, and you got to be able to withstand them. They just don't go like one direction, back and forth. And you got to know that, and it's long, and you got to hang in there and keep battling.
From that day you were introduced to where you are now, is it amazing how quickly things have gone in the process?
It always is. It's exactly like the kids' time here. I think it's, the days are long, but the time is short. And there've been some long, hard, grinding days, but you're exactly right. It's like, wow, it's here, ready to go.
Chris, do you envision playing both quarterbacks Saturday, or do you envision this being Jeff's show Saturday?
I don't envision either. I don't know. We're just there's a lot of unknowns here, and we'll let Jeff go and adjust accordingly. And we got good confidence in him, and I think he's going to play at a high level. But we'll just kind of see. And I think we just kind of keep all options open in a lot of different phases of our games. And I think coaches are always prepared to adjust, and if we have to.
You feel comfortable giving him access to the entire playbook, or is that just kind of...
Well, I don't think, like I told our kids, you're not worried even so much about just your quarterback. It's everybody else. There's no way everybody can handle the whole playbook. We've thrown a lot of things at them, but now it's our time to tighten it up and say, hey, this is all we're carrying into this game. These are all the things you got to think about, not everything you've seen in spring ball or fall camp.
Talk a little bit.
There was a lot of autonomy with the position coaches when you kind of told them which guys, when they figured out the depth chart or your CD chart. How much of that process were you involved with in terms of Jeff and in terms of the quarterbacks with Jonathan?
Well, I think, for all of our coaches, when we have tight competition, I'm there for a little bit of outside eyes, a little bit maybe of a fresh perspective, that I'm not in meetings every single day with those guys, that position. And so I think it's a good process. Some guys I don't say anything to. They haven't said anything to me. And other guys I say, hey, what do you think? And I put my 2 cents in. I think at the quarterback position, I said earlier, it was very tight between those two guys. And so we had many discussions, throughout spring ball and then how it went in fall camp. And, at the end of the day, just decided that, like we said, we felt like, Jeff deserves a nod. We're excited to see what he can do, and fired up about it.
Being a former quarterback, didn't feel more kind of just naturally inclined to get involved in the process a little bit more that way?
Well, I always gravitate towards that position. I mean, I'm going way back. I'm an offensive guy. I'm a quarterback guy. I think our whole offense is trying to set up around making a quarterback successful. And, when you don't have a returning starter coming back, you know, you don't want to put it on any one guy. And if I was the coordinator, I would want other input as well, not from just me, but the line coach as well. And I think we put all eyes on that position, and everybody had a say, and kind of came to a consensus, and we're rolling.
You talk about Buda Baker starting back in one of the safety spots, and how much did you put into that, talking to Coach Lake?
Yeah, I didn't have any conversation with Coach Lake about that. Buda's been going hard from day one, and he's doing a great job. And you know, I think we got some guys there that, you know, at that position, you're going to see multiple guys going through there. Just we have so many young guys and keep the competition flowing. But Buda's done a great job from, like I said, from the time he got here in the summer till right now.
What in particular has impressed you about him?
Probably how focused he is and how hard he plays. I mean, like I said, if it's wind sprints, he's trying to win them. If it's 7-on-7, it looks like a game rep. You're in meetings, you can see his focus. He's paying attention to everything. Very, very mature for a young guy in terms of those aspects of his game.
Can you talk about Washington and Brown and the disciplinary action against both of those players?
Yeah, so, Levon won't be with us anymore. And, you know, Derek's suspended indefinitely, and we'll kind of figure out his deal down the road, where we go from there. But, you know, guys got to do things right around here. It's been preached from day one. And if they're not, you know, we'll take action. Yeah, we don't comment on any of that.
Mental at all?
Don't comment on any of that.
You talked about we haven't hit that adversity wall yet. Is this maybe one of those small bump in the road kind of adversity things, or is that
In terms of?
overall team kind of relaying the message back to the team? You know, hey, we still got to keep on the same track. Everyone's still going strong. Or
Yeah, I don't necessarily think of it as adversity. I think it's adversity for those guys not figuring out how to do it. But this team's moving on quickly, and we got other guys, and we're not looking back. I mean, that's how it goes. And everybody's got to pay attention. You know, we need to learn from others' mistakes, and if they don't, you know, same action will be taken.
You need to, during the season, starting now, all during the year, you're kind of focused on doing everything you can to win a game, but at the same time, you're developing players, developing depth. How do you balance that? Is that part of your game plan as far as cycling people in and out?
Well, there's no question that we need to develop really good depth. You know, I keep going back to I really wish that you know, we had a 5-year eligibility rule. I really do. I mean, I just think it'd be good for the game, good for the kids, good for everything. So what I mean there is, you know, there's no real redshirting. You don't have to worry about that. And as depth changes throughout the years, I think it keeps kids focused, engaged. You don't have to worry about burning a kid's year really late, because we know we're going to need these. We're going to play a lot of freshmen, and we know that going in right now. And so who knows how the season goes in terms of injuries and those things. And, you know, everybody gets guys dinged up and loses guys. And then if you have one of those seasons where it's really not good, you know, that's when you talk about being friendly to the student athlete. You know, all of a sudden you got to play a kid that's sat on the bench for a long time, and you don't really want to do that, but you have to do it for the health of your team.
Holmes had said he hoped to be 100% by this game.
Yeah.
Where do you see him at, and how much do you think he'll be able to contribute?
Well, I think he's going to play. I know he's going to play. There's no question. I mean, he'll be in there. You know, I don't think he's 100%, but I think he can go. And I think part of it is just him getting in a game, and he's going to have to go full speed. I think when we've done some scrimmage situations, he's looked better. Doesn't think about it as much and goes. And you know, it's just going to be work in progress throughout the season.
Coach, how much progress has Tyler Miles made? We talked about earlier in camp about how far back he was. Is he now about caught up, or?
Yeah. I think Seiler's done a really good job. I've been impressed with him in terms of not having anything in spring, where he is mentally, and really how he kind of runs the show out there when he does get out there. I mean, I was very surprised at that he, you know, he knew a lot more than I thought he would. Now, part of that is we've kept as many things the same terminology-wise as we can. But he also has had a pretty good memory in terms of recalling certain things that, oh, yeah, we used this before in this game. And not all players can do that. And I think that's kind of a sign or a characteristic of, you know, one of those minds that really things stick in terms of at this position.
Several of your players have talked about the difference now lots less screaming, yelling, more sincere conversation between staff and the players. Is that something you've always done, or is it something you've adapted to as players have changed?
Well, I think, I think players, I know this when I was a player. You don't need to scream and yell at those guys all the time to get their attention. And in fact, you could be calm most of the time, and just by the way you look at them or the tone of your voice, it can have the exact same effect. Now, I'm not saying we don't get loud and frustrated at times, but I think we're always trying to communicate to these guys in a positive way. I mean, that's really what we want to do. I mean, one of the things that I want these kids to do when we go play is to cut it loose and play fast. And if they make a mistake, they know that's not just on them. That's on us as coaches as well. We'll go back to practice and fix this. And I want them to have fun, and I want them to take chances. And I think that, a lot of that goes to the style and the way that we'll coach them.
See on film from Hawaii?
Well, it's a little bit hard to know because they have a brand new defensive coordinator. It's going to be a completely different scheme. And then they've changed their offense as well. So you're looking at some players, and so it's hard to not get caught up in their scheme when you're looking at their tape, which we don't feel is going to be the same. First games, who knows? I think it's those first 3 games, there's a lot of uncertainty. Everybody's going to have their new wrinkles that they're saving for first game, second game, third game. But I think Norm Chow, let's not forget that guy's a phenomenal coach, and it's more than, to have success in a program, it's more than just coaching, it's administration, it's support, it's all those things. And so, I know some of those coaches on that staff too, and this is a new year, and they'll have those guys ready to roll. I know that.
Who do you go with the kicker on Saturday? You mentioned 2 guys.
Well, what do we got on the depth chart here? It looks like Cameron's done a good job with some place kicking things. I think he's done a good job kicking off as well. I think we want to get Tristan in there to help us with some, so Cam's leg doesn't get too weary. Corey Durkee's done a nice job punting. Those guys have done a pretty good job. I think it'll be interesting when we get off the driving range and see what they got game time.
So the first field goal crack, you don't know yet who takes that crack? Or
No, Cameron will get that. Yeah.
Having done it before with Boise, what did you learn about making that trip over to the islands and not getting caught up in distraction?
Yeah, it's hard. It's such a long plane ride. You get on both ends here because it's such a long plane ride. You're extremely excited to get off that plane. Then you got that nice ocean air. It just feels like vacation. And so it's very easy to lose that mental edge if you're not really in tune to how it's going to be and how it's going to feel. And so I think that's the first thing. And then you play the game, and a little bit of time change. Certainly the weather's different. There's usually a little bit more humidity. Sometimes some rain. There's always some sort of wind. And if they're not, then it's hot as heck in that stadium. You get it all usually. And then after the game, you got to get back on that plane, and we're back here about 8:30 in the morning, getting ready for the next week. So there's nothing easy about this trip at all. I think everybody, Hawaii, great. Yeah, hard place to play.
Can you talk about the veteran leadership on the offensive line? You had the question marks at quarterback going through fall camp. You always had that solid offensive line. How key is that going to be for the first game, and obviously moving forward with kind of the uncertainty still with quarterback, Jeff? How important is that?
Yeah, I think we're talking about 2 different things here. You're talking about the O-line playing well, you're talking about the O-line being leaders. Okay, so I think that, they need to play well. We need to be able to run the ball. I think most teams want to be able to do that, and they've been around a lot, and so I think that'll take a lot of pressure off our quarterback if we can do some of those things. Secondly, we'll see what type of leaders they are. Again, I haven't been with these guys in those really adverse situations, and so we'll see. That's where our eyes are wide open as coaches, where we're going to have to go back to and readdress and make progress there.
What is it about what Dwayne Washington did this last month and in spring that has him at the top of the depth chart and has him getting the first crack, it looks like?
Yeah. He's done a real nice job. I will say this, is that running back position, I do think it's a little bit of a seeding chart, because we're going to play them all. And it may not be all, it may be all of them in the first quarter, and it may be not all of them play this game. We'll just have to see how it goes. So I want to make that clear. But I think that he's done some really nice things. He's an explosive player, very fast when he gets some space. And so, Coach Bonifant decided he'd be the guy to kind of get the the nod to start it, but I think all those guys will play.
What have you seen from Marcus Peters this fall and how important he is to your young secondary in general?
Yeah, you'd hope a guy that's played as much as he plays to really be the anchor back there, to be solid. That's a guy that we don't have to worry about, that can make plays, that, you know, he's had a lot of hype. I mean, a lot of hype. And, you know, we'll see if he can live up to it. He's done a nice job in fall camp, but he will be tested now. And if he can live up to that hype, that's going to help our secondary tremendously.
Your running back,
you got practice on Saturday. Any health concerns on anybody out here?
No, what you see is what you get. You know, we've really had a relatively good fall camp in terms of that stuff. I mean, we've been very, very blessed. I hope we can continue with that. Just some minor things, but we've been good there.
Corey Littleton, he's not in the two deep. Can you just talk about Corey Littleton?
Yeah.
He's not in the two deep. What have you seen out of him, I guess, and what's had him slip?
No, he was one of those guys that's been a little bit banged up, but nothing serious. He's, maybe missed a day or two, kind of been in and out a couple different times. I think he's making good progress. He's a guy that, I'm anxious to see him go, because you go put the tape on from last year. I mean, he's a guy that not a lot of people talked about, but I kind of saw him making a lot of plays, so I'm excited about him.
Hey, Coach, for you personally at this point, have you, coming from Boise to here to Washington, do you feel settled in, or are you just, how different is the perspective being at Washington as opposed to Boise now?
It's not different like being at Washington. It's just being at a new place. And so getting through, all the things that we spoke about, from, stretching and our pregame warm-up, and is there music in the locker room before? I mean, all these little things seem to derail the kids when it's not exactly the same, and we know that. And so we've gone through this process of, yes, this is the same, yes, this has changed. And it's really not a big deal if the music's not on 3 minutes before when you're used to it, or you're warming up on this side of the field opposed to that. And so we're working through some of those things. For me, it's fall camp. It's the process. It's the same. But it's just getting everybody on the same page, which is a little bit more hectic, a little bit more frantic than when you're at a place for a long time.
Where are you at in that regard? I mean, do you almost expect some confusion at some points in time on Saturday?
Oh, there's no question. And it wouldn't matter if you're there, at a place for a long time. You're going to have some stuff that is like, are you kidding me? How would that happen? I mean, you already know that's coming. So there's no doubt.
You got 4 running backs you're going to use, various levels. Talk about the different attributes they bring as far as pass catching, blocking, inside, outside speed,
yeah.
things
like I keep saying, some of that's still to be determined, because, I think you got to see it in live situations. Who's going to break tackles the best? Who actually catches the ball most consistently? Who has the best feel for finding holes? I think Dwayne might be the fastest, maybe most explosive. I think that, Levon I think he'll be very interesting. I think he's kind of a physical, hard-nosed type runner. I think Coop and Jesse Collier, those guys are kind of slithering type guys. They kind of feel things and kind of use their blocks fairly well. That's kind of my impression early on, before really seeing them in the heat of the battle for extended period of time. So I think it's a good mix. It's a good blend. I'm glad we have them all, and I'm excited to see those guys go. I do, and they, we talk about our O-line, and those guys really, we need those guys to step up. We can block the play as clean as possible, and that's, okay, we got 4 yards. I mean, that's how it is. They got 2 extra players when you got a quarterback and a ball carrier to come to the ball. So you're going to have to run through some things, and that's what we're anxious to see.
Just a year ago here was ramping up the tempo and trying to get that offensive lock speed. And I think you guys did that a little bit at Boise too. Do you have a target number in terms of plays that you want to run in this game, particularly the games going forward, or what's that in general going to look like?
Yeah, we don't have a number. We do not have a number, because we've been in games where we've gotten ahead and we're trying to slow the game, speed the game up, run less plays, use clock. And so we haven't really gotten hung up on, hey, this is a good number for us. And I think the research even shows when you're running an extremely large amount of plays, that's usually not the best for your defense overall when you look at some of these. And so we want to change tempos.
His focus and all that. Is that, how unique is that for a freshman to have that kind of attention to detail?
You know, I think this is what Coach Gontroff and, you know, all the guys over at Bellevue were so excited about Buddha, because he's this really good athlete, but he brings all these special intangibles to the table. I think that's when any coach really gets excited about a guy, that he's, yeah, good players. And we see a lot of good players. I think when coaches start getting so excited about a guy, it's when they bring all these awesome intangibles. They're really a good person. They treat their teammates well. They're so locked in. They practice. I mean, it's all the things you talk about. And it's like, if you could get the rest of the guys like this, you'd have something special. And in the time that he's been here, you know, he's been like that. I don't want to, you know, put too much on his plate. And, you know, it's going to be hard. This is, you know, college football at a different speed. But he's done a great job since he's been here.
What kind of role does he play on special teams, or does that kind of come after?
He could be on all of them. He could start on all 4 of them. But we got to be smart with him, and he is going to start on a couple.
Coach, what have you told your players, or what will you tell them about why this game's important, or starting with game 1, what the major focus is?
You know, I always think this. If I have to tell them why this game is important, especially the first game, or give them a fire-up speech in the locker room, we're in trouble. So I got some other things to tell them, but not that. And, you know, I really feel like that. I mean, if we got to, you know, tell them why this, I mean, all this work that we've done all year long, I mean, first game is, I mean, all those things. It's, to me, it's almost like, yeah, if they don't get that, that could be trouble. If we, you know, we don't play well, we don't win the game, it's not because of that. It's because we're not taking care of some of these things that we've been harping on all year long, and we don't have some of these other fundamentals taken care of.
What's your Friday night speech like to the team? I mean, are you a fiery guy? You start smacking on the walls and getting all jacked up?
Sometimes. I like to talk to, I always talk to them about they haven't seen this yet, but I've told them what's coming. I always talk to them something about life in general. Doesn't have anything to do with football. It might tie in, but it's usually about life. And then I'll usually talk to them about what I think the keys to the game are. And if it's anything that's surprising, then we haven't done our job as coaches. They should go, yeah, I know that. And then we're all locked in, and away we go. Sometimes it's emotional, and sometimes it's not. We just kind of feel it as we go.
You made any scholarship decisions with walk-ons, or will that wait until school
No,
starts?
we do. We have 2. Brian Clay has been put on scholarship. Drew Schultz has been put on scholarship. 2 kids that have done everything right, worked their tail off. Our weight room has loved them. I think the guys in our locker room really love those kids. And, you know, it's always a good day when we can take care of guys that deserve to be on. And there's probably a couple other guys that deserve to be on right now that, you know, we don't have scholarships for, but hopefully down the road we will.
All right. How are you going to measure Jeff and his game? What's the most important criteria for him in game 1? Link with
You know, I think kind of maybe why we selected him is just to maybe stay within yourself. You don't have to go out and win this game by yourself. We don't need a bunch of critical errors. Everybody's not going to play perfect. We get that. But we got to minimize the critical errors. And, you know, I think there's enough guys around him that can make plays. And if he's just, you know, he's the distributor and takes the easy money, make his life a lot easier.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.